Welcome to the Breakthrough the Bullshit podcast. I am your host, Alice Round. I am pumped to have you here. We are going to really strip back all of the bullshit surrounding nutrition, training, fad diets, everything in the industry so that we can give you education to get the best possible results. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's go through all this bullshit. Welcome back to another episode of Breakthrough the Bullshit, and on today's episode I will be talking about intensity. So intensity in the gym, intensity in your training, and the best way to make strength progressions. So we will be talking about squat fundamentals and deadlift fundamentals and how strength training can really help not only your mindset but also your physique and also your overall confidence levels. Intensity is something that I talk about with my clients a lot, and intensity is often a factor that people forget about when they're actually strength training or wanting to see results in the gym. And what I mean by intensity is the amount of actual effort you put in the gym in terms of your lifts, your weight selections, the reps you put out, and just kind of all those little 5%ers that add up over time. So one thing that people forget when they're programming is you can have the most perfect or amazing training program in the world, something that has gotten results for people before, something that has just had really fantastic response to it. But if at the end of the day you don't actually put the application in correctly, you're not going to get the same end result as someone else. And that's why I do believe that programming should be relatively individual, and or have options or variations for people to adjust at. So for example, what I mean by this is I would not go and program for a beginner, someone who's never ever been in the gym before, a 5x5 on low bar squats and then an AMRAP on, body weight or drop sets or any sort of variables like that are just going to step up the training intensity. So when you hear the term intensity in terms of a programming sense, what we're talking about is generally bringing up load, so overall weight on the bar basically. But I believe you can adjust intensity in different variations of ways. So obviously with things like drop sets, supersets, pause reps, partials, isolation exercises, all of these factors are going to increase the intensity of the exercise or prolong a set. We're talking more drop sets in that sense though. So where am I going with the point of this? Basically what you need to understand is that if you want to actually physically get stronger, your intensity over time or your volume over time will need to increase overall. So if you're going in the gym and you're picking up the same weights every single week and you're doing the exact same rep range, the exact same sets, and then you're wondering why A, your body's not changing, or B, you're not getting stronger, it's because you're not physically pushing yourself and giving that intensity. And I believe that intensity in the mental sense I'm talking about now, intensity in the mental sense comes down to the individual. Now, we've all got days where we go to the gym and we don't feel 100%. And on those days, I generally will do, for myself personally, and also encourage my clients to do a easier day on their program, or maybe a mobility day or a conditioning day, or something where it's not as neurologically taxing. So by neurologically taxing, what I mean is something that really requires a lot of brain intensity. So it might be like doubles on squats, really close to your 1 rep max. Anything that's getting close to a 1 rep max is going to require a lot of intensity and neurological drive to get that exercise done. Just in terms of confidence under the bar, all of those sort of variations are going to come into play. So that's why it's actually really important to work in those lower rep ranges, to challenge yourself mentally, physically. But it's also important to understand the days that you probably shouldn't be pushing it, because you've probably got a higher chance of injury on those days as well. So coming back to intensity, how do you bring up your training intensity so that overall you're progressively overloading in the gym? How do you do that mentally? Because obviously just putting more weight on the bar, that's obviously one method, but you've got to know in your mindset that you can actually achieve it. So a big one for me that I tend to do in terms of intensity, say I'm getting to a sticking point with a weight, say with powerlifting, or say my 5x5, I'm always hitting 100 or something like that on a squat, and I really want to push it to 105 for a week. How do you bring that intensity up? So the key is obviously not jumping up too quickly. The other key is making sure that you are going in with a confident mindset. So what I mean by that is what you think about before you go into a lift. All right, so if you are about to step under a bar and you start saying to yourself, fuck, this is heavy. Oh my God, I haven't done this weight before. Oh my God, I haven't got someone spotting me. I haven't got the safeties up. What if I fail? All of this negative self-talk, you will mentally talk yourself out of the rep completely before you've even gone in. And I've seen this with clients before. I'll get them under the bar and I'll say, okay, let's do it. And I can see if I haven't given them any coaching cues and they're in a negative mindset, they won't do it. I'll give them a couple of minutes break. I'll sit them down and I'll say, okay, this time I want you to go in and you're going to positively talk yourself into the reps. So what you're going to do is go in there and get excited, get some adrenaline going. So we're going to go in there and go, fuck yeah, I did this for 5 reps last week. I'm just adding a little bit of load. I'm going to go in there and smash it. Even if I only get 3, 5's a bonus. Let's just go in there and get at least a couple of reps out. And then, you know what? You'll probably get the total of 5 rather than, overestimating and putting that pressure on yourself. So sometimes you just got to lower the expectations a little bit, but go in with confidence and really positively self-talk yourself into the rep. I know that might sound weird, but it makes a massive difference. I also find that it's going to boost your adrenaline. Anytime you're increasing adrenaline in your body as well, you're generally going to have a more positive response. So if you're going in for a couple of reps, really pump yourself up, ramp yourself up, get that intensity going, and be confident in your rep ranges. I actually love squatting without safety racks because it does pump the adrenaline up. You've got to get the lift. You've got to go in there with confidence and just own that space. So think about applying intensity. It doesn't have to just be to 1 rep maxes or low rep training. It might be to a hypertrophy set. So you might have always been doing 10 reps of, 3 sets on the same weight every single week on maybe an overhead press or something like that. So what I mean by that is you might go in there the next week and go, I've done 10 for the last few weeks. This week I'm going to push for 12 or 15. So you want to bring that intensity up. It doesn't always have to be putting more weight on the bar. It might mean adding reps. It might just mean increasing overall volume of sets, set duration, set length. Any of those sort of variables that are going to increase intensity are thus in turn going to actually burn more calories as well. Because if you think about it, our bodies are smart. They always want to create homeostasis. So say, for example, you're always doing a 3x10. The first week that you do it, say you're keeping the weight the same. So 3x10 on 50 kilos. The first week that you do it, maybe you'll burn 100 calories doing it. The next week, you'll probably burn about 90 because your body's used to that move and it becomes easier. You're more primed for it. The third week, you only might burn 75 or 80 kilos. It's becoming quite easy. It's not the same RPE. It's not the same intensity. So that's why we need to progressively overload so that we're also expending more energy whilst doing the exercise, or at least the same on par each week. So, favorite tool for measuring intensity is RPE. If you don't know what RPE is, go and look up an RPE scale. It is rate of perceived exertion. I do have an RPE calculator that I have for my clients, which is a little bit more tailored to the gym, but most general RPE calendars are going to be pretty accurate. Now, it's a really good way to rate your training session and also just rate the set as well. So say, for example, you have a set of 3x6, and the first set you do 80 kilos, the second set you do 90, and the third set you do 100. Your RPE might go 7, 8, 9. So you know that the following week, say you want to bring that intensity of the setup, you might want to start on your heavier 8 RPE set. So RPE is also a really good way to rate your fatigue levels. And I find that if I have a client who say their RPE is staying very high, but they're not actually adding a lot more weight to the bar, it generally means that they might need a little bit of a break or a deload because they're obviously not getting stronger and they're struggling on the same weight. So RPE is amazing for seeing whether you're pushing yourself and also seeing whether you are fatigued and your body actually needs a little bit of a break from training. Now, everyone's RPE will be different. If you're someone that really can push yourself, you'll probably find that your RPE, you'll probably underestimate it a little bit. Now, if you're someone that doesn't really push yourself in the gym, you'll probably find that you'll overestimate your RPE. So I find sometimes with clients, I'll say, send me a video of your 9 RPE squat. They'll send it to me and it'll look like a 7. I'll look at it and go, no, you could have actually got about 4 or 5 more reps out. And they're like, no, I could have only got 1 more. So RPE is an individual thing, but you've got to also understand whether you are really being honest in terms of RPE. So for example, someone that really pushes themselves in the gym might only write down a 7 or an 8, but when you physically look at it, it probably looks like they could have only got 1 or 2 more out. Now, so as long as you're consistent with how you're measuring RPE, that is the most important variable. So some tips for bringing up intensity in the gym is monitor your training with RPE, record your weights or sets each week, and obviously aim to progress until you need a required recovery week or deload or anything like that, because obviously we can't just keep progressively overloading on top of each other all the time. It's like dieting, you'll end up either breaking yourself or just getting completely fatigued. Bring up intensity. We want to make sure we go into the lift with a positive mindset so that you're really increasing the weights you put on the bar and getting out of your comfort zone of the weights that you always pick up in the gym. And then also making sure that you are changing the exercise in terms of intensity, and whether that be volume overall, whether that be more sets or less reps but heavier and more reps, whether that be partial reps, whether that be drop sets, whether that be certain different variations, which we'll talk more in other podcasts about. But it's all about making your body get uncomfortable. If you're training and it's constantly comfortable, you go in there and really you're just in your zone and it's nice and cruisy, that is completely fine. If you're just happy to kind of maintain the level of fitness that you're at or the level of strength, completely understandable. But if you're someone that actually wants to get physically stronger or grow muscle mass in a certain area, change your body shape, you're going to actually have to get out of that comfort zone. So again, there's different ways to train in terms of what you want and what your goals are and where your body's at. And I do believe that there is overtraining as well. So that's another variable that you have to be careful about. When you look at sports like CrossFit, they are amazing sports for progressively overloading, for pushing yourself. But I find that sometimes they are too much intensity and not enough recovery. And then what tends to happen is people get burnt out and injured very, very frequently. Now, I'm definitely not saying that for all CrossFitters, but it is one of the problems with the sports. There is some amazing CrossFit coaches out there who program and periodize for their athletes. But if you don't actually know how to do so, that can tend to happen, because basically every session you're going in either doing a 1 rep max or an AMRAP or something where you're physically pushing yourself. Similar with powerlifting, but obviously with powerlifting you tend to have a very structured programming where you've got deloads factored in and certain areas there. So make sure if you are progressively overloading that you're also unloading, so taking those deloads where you need it so that you can progressively get stronger. Some people are freaks and won't need that recovery and will be able to just smash it week in and week out. But listen to your body and go by RPE. If your RPE starts to drop or starts to become harder on less weight, then you know it's probably time to pull it back a little bit. So at the end of the day, find the right training style that works for you, but also understand that you can't get results from not pushing yourself. You're going to have to get out of that comfort zone, positively self-talk yourself into pushing yourself in the gym. Another really good way of increasing intensity is train or go in with a training partner and have them really push you for those last couple of reps. Tell them to keep their hands off the bar, make sure that you're doing the work. But it can be very encouraging sometimes if you're going in with someone else, say when you're doing an AMRAP set or something like that, where you're really, really pushing yourself to that max. So I hope you go ahead and go and smash some intensity in the gym. I want to see some of your posts. I want to see what you're up to. If you've used any of these principles and you go and smash it this week in the gym, use the hashtag #TeamRound on Instagram so I can find you. I can find your posts. I love hearing from you. I love your comments. I love your feedback. So thank you so much for tuning in on this episode on intensity, and go in the gym and smash it this week. See you guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of Break Through the Bullshit. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you could leave a review on iTunes. Let me know, comment what you'd love to see more of, and be sure you've also subscribed on YouTube and iTunes for updates. And if you'd like more info, then you can also add the Team Round Support Facebook page, which is available to access for all of you, and you just simply need to search for it on Facebook.